Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us to learn a little bit more about advanced forms and some of the more advanced functionality that you can access when using forms in your business process or various projects that you have going on. My name is Katie McInerney. I am the training coordinator with the Office of Information Technology. So I help schedule and organize various technology events across campus. I also lead several workshops on Google and your basic cybersecurity topics. Also joining us today is Louise Flynn. She's another one of our trainers and also a graphic designer with OIT, and she's going to be our moderator today. So she is going to be keeping a very close eye on the Q&A document, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And that's where you'll add any questions that you have about the content that we're presenting today. So thank you to Louise for joining us. As far as the agenda for this afternoon's Lunch and Learn, we're going to do a very brief overview when it comes to YouTube Live, because I know some of you might be new to this platform. And then we'll jump into some of the features and functionality regarding forms that we're going to focus on today. A few of those include the forms landing page and what options you have to manage your forms from that location. We'll talk about creating sections and branching, file attachments in your forms, response validations, creating pre-filled forms with pre-populated answers, finding that embed code to then embed a form in your websites, managing your notification rules when it comes to responses. We'll talk a little bit about add-ons, and then we'll have a section for Q&A at the end. We'll also conclude with upcoming workshops and contact information so you can stay in touch with the training team and you know what's going to be coming down the pike in the future. All right, so let's talk a little bit about YouTube Live and the Q&A document. So with YouTube Live, if you are new to the platform, there is no way for us to have a communication exchange. So it really only provides a way for the presenter to share information out to users. So in order for us to collect your questions, we have created an editable Google Doc, and you should be able to find the URL or the link to that document below the YouTube video feed in the description. So you can just copy that link and open a new window so you can have the YouTube Live event happening along with the Q&A document up, just in case you need to toggle between the two. And there is a little bit of a delay. So when we are speaking, it might take 30 seconds before you hear what we're talking about. So if you're typing your questions and there's a little bit of a delay between the time that you type and the time that we respond, that's most likely why. Also, in the Q&A document, you will see a link to an evaluation. We really value everyone's feedback, so we want to make sure that we targeted all of the expected topics during today's session. And we also want to hear from you about any thoughts or suggestions you have for the training team. If there's any workshops that you would like to see us offer down the road, that's how we know how to create and develop new workshops and how we can enhance the ones we already offer. So definitely take about 2 minutes at the conclusion of this event and share your thoughts with us through that evaluation link. One more note about the Q&A document. That's also a good place to let us know if there's any technical difficulties. So if you're unable to hear me clearly, if the video feed freezes up, anything like that, please type it in that document and Louise will be able to let me know and we can do some troubleshooting that way. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with something that might seem pretty basic. It is the Google Forms landing page. The reason we wanted to bring this to everybody's attention today is because a lot of people don't know that it exists. Most people, when you're creating a Google form, you start through your Google Drive landing page. So you normally go to Google Drive, you click on the new button and create a new form. Well, there's actually a landing page where you can access all of your forms in one place. And you have the ability to create new forms from this location, and you can also manage previously created forms. So from the landing page, I'm actually going to jump out there live and provide a quick demo You can go to forms.google.com to reach this page. And at the top, you'll see a template gallery. So it's suggesting a few different templates for you. But there's actually NC State branded template options along with general Google developed template options for you. So when you click on the arrows to get into the template gallery, you'll see an NC State tab and a general tab. There are two NC State branded form templates that I wanted to show you. And you can click on the first one here, which is a more colorful bell tower aerial view. And it is branded with the NC State logo up at the top. So you can just start creating your form from this template. If we go back, you'll see the other branded option for you from the template gallery here, which is more of a grayscale black and white option. So if you're not looking for anything with too much color, this might be a good option for you. So a lot of people don't know those templates are available. And then if we click on General, go back to the template gallery and then General, you'll see that Google has created various templates in a few different categories here. So they've separated their templates into education, personal, and work. So if you're looking for a contact form, a ticket for an event, an assessment, let's see what else is down here, an order form, customer feedback, that sort of thing, and you don't want to recreate the wheel, then this is definitely something that can help you and save you some time with your projects. So as we exit the template gallery, below that top section, this is where you can manage your forms. You can sort by a few different options, actually. The first drop-down sort option you see is who it's owned by. So if you want to sort by, if it's owned by you specifically, or if it's not owned by you, you have the ability to choose and to sort your forms accordingly. You can also change your view. So what you're seeing here in my example is a grid view. So it's more of an icon-based format with a preview of what is included in that particular form. But if you prefer more of a list layout, then you can just toggle it over to a list view. So I'm going to switch mine back. I kind of like the preview grid option. And then you also have the ability to sort by when it was opened, modified, and you can sort alphabetically by the title. Also in this menu is the ability to search through your Google Drive for a particular form that you're looking for. So you can go through My Drive, Team Drives, Shared with Me, Starred, and Recent if you want to locate a form that way. And then finally, Forms, this particular landing page also provides some shortcut options, so you don't have to dig through Google Drive in order to take a few different actions with your forms. So you can actually rename, remove, or open forms in another tab just by clicking on this three-dot menu or the More menu. Once you click on that menu, you'll see the additional options, and you can simply rename or remove or open in a new tab this way. So some good little shortcuts and nice tips for you that are available from the Google Forms specific landing page that you might not be familiar with if you are going into My Drive to access the forms. All right, so we'll move on and we're going to talk about sections and branching. One thing that I want to make clear when it comes to sections is that they are actually pages. So when you create a new section, it's not just adding a new category or a new area, a segmented area to your form. It's actually creating a brand new page. So that can be a little tricky with the vocabulary because it's not quite consistent with how we necessarily think of sections in other software or other documents. So when you create a section, you're actually creating a page. Once you have that section created, you do have the ability to give that section a title, a description. You can add as many questions and various question types that you need to. You can also merge sections. So as you're creating and developing your form, if you determine you know what, it might be best for these sections just to live in one area or on one page. Google Forms makes it very easy just to merge sections together. Also, if you're just going to be making slight changes or slight edits to your sections, you can duplicate or make a copy of a section so you don't have to recreate all of the work all over again. So that's also a nice time saver. When you're creating your sections, you also have the ability to move them or change their location as far as the order. So if you have a section that you've created that you've added to the end and you change your mind and you really want those questions to be at the beginning, you can very easily relocate and move those sections around. And then of course you can delete. So if you don't want a section at all involved, you can go ahead and delete that out. Once you have created your sections, then you have the ability to add on branching or skip and jump users to another section based on how they answered one of your questions. And I'm actually going to demo this for you in just a minute, but just to give you a brief overview about branching and how that works. So based on a user's answers, you can determine how to navigate them through your form. So you can just continue them to the next section, or you can skip them to a different section altogether. Or if you prefer just to take them straight to the submittal page, you can do that as well. Now, branching is only available for a few question types. So you can set up branching for a multiple choice question or a drop-down question. So let's go out to a form. And I've created a test form for a lot of our examples today. We're just going to look at this as though we're going to be attending a conference, or we're sending this out to users who will be attending a conference. And I have a question at the very beginning of the form here asking the user if they're going to be attending the conference. Now, as you see, I'm going to scroll down. I have several different sections or pages that are created, asking for contact information, food preferences, that sort of thing. So if we look at this very first question about if the user will be attending the conference, we've added the options yes, no, and maybe. Now, if I'm looking at this, if the user answers that they're not going to be attending the conference, I don't need to collect any information from them. They can actually just go ahead and submit the form. No need to waste their time or mine. So in order to add branching to this particular question, we can go down here. Once we select the question in the editor view of the form, we can click on the More menu with the 3 dots, and we can activate the option to go to section based on answer. So once you have checked that particular feature, you'll notice additional fields pop up beside each answer option for that question. So as we look at each answer option here, if the user selects yes, that they are going to be attending the conference, we want them to move on to the next section and continue answering the form. If they select no, that they are not going to be attending the conference, again, we don't need them to fill out the rest of the fields. We can click on this drop-down list here, and you'll see all the sections that we have created, and then there's a submit option. So at this point, if they're not attending, we can take them directly to the submit page. If the user answers maybe, I'm still going to collect their answers when it comes to the conference, just in case they do attend. So I'm going to leave them default, and they can continue to the next section. Now, if you want to test this functionality to make sure it's working the way you expect, we can click on the preview button. So you can click on preview at any time. It's the icon that looks like an eye up at the top right menu, and click on preview. And so we have our branching logic set. So we're just going to test that real quick. So will we be attending the conference? Nope, we're not going to attend. If we click on next, it jumps us straight to submit. Now let's test if we answer yes. So if we're going to be attending the conference, yes, click on next, it takes us to the next page. So the logic is working as expected. So branching is great. You can really get complex with your branching logic, and can save a lot of time in making sure that users are answering the questions that they need based on previous responses. So hopefully y'all will find some value in that. So we'll close that out and move on to file attachment. So file attachments are fairly new to forms. I know Google received a lot of feedback from users wanting the ability to allow responders to upload and attach files when they're completing forms. So one thing I do want to mention first off is that the file attachment question option is only available in forms that are created in your My Drive. So file attachments at this time cannot be incorporated into forms that are created through a team drive. So I'm hoping that might change down the road. If we can provide more feedback to Google, hopefully they'll listen to us and be able to make that change. But again, you will not see the file attachment option as an active question type in a team drive form. But you do add or select the file attachment option as a question type. So you would create a new question as normal, and then in the drop-down list of the type of question you want to select, you would choose file attachment. So file attachments basically, like I said earlier, allow users to upload files. They can browse their local machine. They can even browse their drive, their My Drive account through Google to find a file to incorporate. So if you're an editor or an owner of the file, you can choose what types of files you will allow users to attach. You can also select the maximum number of files that they can upload and the maximum file size. File attachments do require users to be logged into their Google account because it will collect information about the user so you can know who submitted the file. So that is something that you need to keep in mind, that it will collect user data. Also, when it comes to where these uploaded files save, they are going to save to the same folder or the same location where your form is located. So whatever, if you have a folder that you've created for this particular form, not only will your responses save to that location, but your files that have been uploaded will also be saved to that location. So Google is trying to keep everything in the same location for you to be able to find it easier, since all of these items are going to be related. So let's take a quick look at how the file attachment works. So I've already created a folder where all of my files and all of my forms are going to live. So I'll show you real quick how to set up the file attachment question in an example project here. So I have a final project form that I've created that I want people to upload files to. So I'm just going to create a new question. So I'm going to click on the plus sign up here, add a question. I'm going to call this, please upload your project file. I'll just leave it at 1. And then next to that question name is the drop-down menu where you choose the type of question you want to add. And file upload, you see, is listed here as an option. So we're going to click on file upload. It will give you a message. It will notify you and let you know that users will be required to sign in. So if you add a file upload field to your form, it will require user login. So we're going to accept that and continue. And then as the owner or editor of the file, you're able to determine what file types you want to allow. So you can check on all of them or only a few specific file types. So if you know you're just going to be allowing PDFs and documents, then you would just click on those. Or if you're okay with images and spreadsheets, you can select whichever types you need there. Editors and owners can also determine the maximum number of files that users can upload. So you're only given 3 choices. You can select 1, 5, and 10. So at this point, for this example, I'm just going to say one file. But if you wanted to add multiple files to allow them to upload, you have that ability too. I'm actually going to change this to 5 because I've done some testing. I want to make sure it allows me to show you the proper demo without throwing an error at me. And then as far as file size, you do have the ability to change your maximum file size. So if you want to limit how large these files are, you can. I'm just going to choose the largest option here. And then within your form settings, you can determine what the maximum total number of file size limit is. And you'll actually have to go into your form settings. So by clicking on that option, then it gives you the ability here to identify your maximum size for all of the uploaded files, not just individual files at a time. All right, so again, if we wanted to test this, once we have all of our file upload settings configured, we can click on the preview button and you'll see what it looks like to the end users. And it will let the users know that their name is going to be associated with your files. So when they log in, I'm already logged in here, but it would require them to log in, and then they can choose to add a file. And again, they can sort through My Drive or previously selected files, or click on Upload from their computer. And I'm just going to grab this particular Word doc, click on Open, and then Upload. So now I can see from the user end that that particular file has been uploaded. And I think I can skip over these. They're not required. So I'm going to submit. And if I jump back over to my drive where my form lives, so in my testing forms folder, I see that's where my form is, and this is my response sheet. Or it's, nope, I think I need to edit my response sheet. Hang on. Let me see where my responses are. Okay, so here is the response sheet, and you can tell I've been doing a lot of testing. It's not very pretty, but here are all of the fields that I am asking users to upload a file for, and I can click on the link, so it does generate a link to that file. And it's not letting me, there we go. I can click on that, it'll open up another window with that document that was attached. So it's very easy to locate that file from your spreadsheet of responses. And then also I wanted to show you back over Drive, a new folder has been created to collect those file upload responses. And so I can click on the folder for that question, and I'll be able to see all of the files here that have been uploaded. And they do end in the name of the user, so you can see which user uploaded those files. So hopefully that helps explain a little bit how you can use file attachment in Forms. I think that's a great addition to Forms. I know a lot of people have been hoping for that update to apply in the past few years. So we're happy to see that now available. Okay, moving on to response validation. Response validation allows you to set rules for answers that you will allow to be entered in various questions before a user can continue forward or continue on in filling out the form. So response validation is available for short answer, paragraph, and checkbox question types. And I have a few examples here. I'm going to jump out and demo another few examples for you in a live form. But an example here, what is 2 plus 2? We know the answer is 4, and we won't accept any other answer other than 4 if someone is submitting a form for us. So I've built logic that requires the user to enter 4 as the answer before it will allow the user to continue on. So you'll see here the message the user will receive if they enter an answer that is not 4. So when I enter 3, it tells me it's incorrect. I need to try again. Another example here with response validation is that you can determine a limit for characters, whether it's a minimum limit of characters or a maximum number of characters. So in this particular example, the question is explain the steps for your process, whatever that might be. And we've set that a minimum of characters, a minimum number of characters has to be entered in order for the user to continue on. So in this example here, we need at least 10 characters for the answer. We have less than that in the answer that has been entered. So it's going to prevent the user from moving on until they type in 10 characters. So I'll show you how to configure a few examples when it comes to response validation. So we're going to head back out into our conference example. Some of these fields might not relate exactly to a conference attendee, but I'm going to jump down into contact information, and we're going to add a new field. So we're going to add a question for email address. And there's a few different ways in forms that you can collect an email address. So I'm just going to show you this particular one because it relates directly to response validation. But forms is really smart. It's going to suggest what type of question type or what type of question you might want to assign that particular question. So we're going to stick with short answer here. And in order to activate response validation, we're going to click on that three-dot menu again, and then choose response validation. And since this is a text answer, we're going to look for text. And the nice thing about forms is it already provides us with an email address validation option. So we're going to choose email address here. And then you can enter in whatever custom error text you want. So if you want to let users know, please try again, this is not a valid email address, or whatever you want to say to help the user understand why their answer isn't being accepted. You can customize that here. I'm just going to type in, please enter a valid email address. And I do want to pause here and note that Google is not checking to make sure the email address is a working email address. It's only looking at the format. And I'll show you what that means in just a minute. When you enter in the email address response validation logic, it's looking to make sure it has an email with the @ sign, and it ends with a domain. So that's really all it's checking for. It's not checking to make sure it's active. It's just checking off those different formatting elements. So again, once we have that entered, we can go up to the preview button. And I'm going to just click next until we get to the last page here where we entered the email address field. And I'm just going to type test. So because I don't have the @ sign or the domain, it's telling me right now that error text that we entered, please enter a valid email address. So I'm going to add the @ symbol. It's still not legit because it doesn't complete the format checks. And then I'm going to enter my domain. At that point, the error text is removed. And so it no longer will appear at that point. So let's go back. I want to show you one more example for response validation. And we will add a new field. And this will be session description. So let's pretend that this user is going to be presenting and they need to enter in the description for their session. So we can build logic through, again, the response validation option. So you go down to the More menu, click on response validation. And again, Google's kind of smart here. It's figuring out that we might want to apply a length logic to this particular example. So again, that's what we want to do. We want to choose length. And this time we're going to require a minimum count, just like I showed you in that example. But if I click on this drop-down arrow, you can choose from minimum character count or maximum character count. So we're just going to do minimum and be consistent with our other example. And this is where we would enter however many characters we need before we will let the user continue. And then you enter your custom error text again. So please enter at least 10 characters in your description. Okay? So now if we check this, if we go out to our preview and we take a look, again, we'll skip to the last page here. Here's our session description. If we just entered test, that's obviously less than 10 characters, and we need at least 10 to bypass the logic. So we'll say test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. Once I hit 10, it will allow me to move on, and it will remove that error message. So those are just a few examples of response validation. And depending on what type of validation you apply, you should always have the ability to add a custom error text. So keep that in mind. And there's also other elements that you can assign to various field types that will allow an error to appear as well. But response validation is definitely the most popular one with that error. Let's see. Also, one thing, I know this is also pretty basic, but requiring fields will also require or add an error. So if you don't enter an answer for a required field, you will also see an error appear, and you won't be able to move forward until you enter a response for that required question. All right, so that's response validation. And again, there's so many different logic formulas that you can create. Those are just a few. I didn't show you all of the options because it could take a while. But let me jump out here just in case you're curious. So for a short answer or a paragraph, you have number, text, length, regular expression, and then depending on what you choose here, that will change your additional menu options as you continue to create that logic. So it really just requires some playing around, and there's plenty of resources out there on the web if you want to do some research and find some other tutorials. And feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help test and find a formula that works best for what you're trying to do. Okay, pre-filled forms. This is actually one of my favorite features in forms. I use this all the time. If you have ever attended one of our Google workshops, then most likely you've already experienced the pre-filled form. So I'll show you how this works. It's really not that complicated. A lot of people think it's going to take a lot more effort than it does. So I'm excited to share with you the few mouse clicks that it does require. But if you haven't heard of pre-filled forms before, they basically allow the editor or the creator of the form to pre-populate answers before sending the form out. So you can type in, if you already know how a particular user or a group of users are going to answer, then you can go ahead and answer that for them and save the user some time when they're completing your form. It will create a unique URL. It does not create another form. It just creates and generates a unique URL to be sent to that audience. So here's an example right here. We're going to recreate this in the demo in just a minute. But basically, in this example, we're going to send this out to our History 101 class, to all of the students in History 101. We know already that all of the students in History 101 are going to be attending the conference. So instead of making everyone in this class fill out these two forms or fill out these two fields, I already know the answers to those. And so I'm going to save them some time. I'm going to go ahead and select yes. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the class that they're in. I'm going to generate that unique URL and then send that URL out to all of the students in History 101. So it saves them from having to complete those two questions, but then they can move on and create submit answers to the other questions in the form. So let's take a look at how to create or generate that pre-filled form URL. So if we come up to our conference example form, we see those questions are here at the top. You're going to look for the form menu, the more menu at the top. It says 3 dots. And then choose the option Get Pre-Filled Link. So we'll click on that, and it brings up your form so you can see all of the questions that you have created. And then it will tell you at the bottom, pre-fill responses. So go ahead and answer the questions that you want to pre-populate, and then scroll to the bottom and get your link. So this is how you're going to get that unique URL. So will you be attending the fall conference? Yes. And then we know that this is going to students in History 101. And then they will be required to select what they want for breakfast and lunch and what their contact information is. And then we're going to click on Get Link. So at the bottom, again, you kind of have to look for this. It's going to tell you to share this link with whoever you need to, and it's going to have those responses already filled in. So there's a copy link option that you'll click on, and it says it's been copied to your clipboard. So now what we'll do is we can take this URL and we can test it. So I'll come up here, I'll open a new tab, and I'm going to test this unique URL. And sure enough, when I paste that URL in, as an end user, I see that yes has been selected and History 101 has been entered. So then I can just click on Next and select what I need to there, and then go on through and submit. So I would take that copied URL and I would send that in an email. I would put it on a website for History 101 class. I would put it out in Moodle, wherever it needed to go, to make sure that the audience or the specific users will be able to access it and have those fields already populated. So again, you'll see that in the evaluation if you haven't clicked on it yet. You'll note that I have already entered in the name of the class. So you don't have to go searching through 50 different workshops. Today's class will already be populated in the evaluation for you. So hopefully you'll be able to find that useful. I think it can save a lot of time for you and your users. And it's also really good to make sure you have consistent answers. So if you know what the answer is going to be already, you can go ahead and type it in the way you want it to populate in your response spreadsheet. So you don't get, History 011 or History 111. You'll get the appropriate class or whatever the response needs to be, and you don't have to do a lot of editing. Form response destination is also an interesting tool that some people don't realize they have the ability to access or to change. So what you can do with form response destination is you can determine where you want your responses to populate. So typically when you first create your form, I'm sure you're already familiar, when you click on the spreadsheet icon in your responses tab, it generates a new spreadsheet for you, and it will save it to the same location wherever your form is. But if you want to change that location, maybe you have a spreadsheet already created where you want to start collecting those responses. You have the ability to do that. So you can go to your response tab under the More menu, select Response Destination, and then you can browse or determine where you want those responses collected. So let's take a look real quick. So back over here in our example, if you click on Responses and then go to the More menu, you can choose Select Response Destination. It will tell you where responses are currently being collected, so you can click on that link. You can see what it's called. You can see all of your answers there. And if you determine that you want to create a brand new spreadsheet, then you have that ability and you can name it whatever you want to name it. So -2 and then create. It will create that new one for you. And it's telling you at the bottom it's linking and that it has successfully linked. So moving forward, as you start sending out the form and as responses start to come in, they will now live in that new spreadsheet that you created. And then you can also select an existing spreadsheet. So if you already have a spreadsheet created, you can select that second option, then choose the select button. You can browse for whatever spreadsheet you have that you want to start collecting new responses in. Click on select, and it will actually create a new tab at the bottom. So I'm going to open that spreadsheet up. I can actually just get there by clicking the spreadsheet icon. And you'll see all of these tabs. I've obviously been testing this several times today, but anytime that you link to an existing spreadsheet, it's going to create a new tab. So moving forward, any new responses will start to populate in that new tab. And also, just as a reminder, you can toggle on and off whether or not you want to continue to accept responses. So obviously, if you're not accepting responses, it's going to be a bright red banner that appears in your response tab. And then to toggle it back on, just simply click the button. And if ever you want to unlink your form, if you no longer want it to populate a spreadsheet at all, you can click on unlink. It will provide you with a heads up. So responses will no longer be sent. It won't delete the data, but it just will no longer continue to populate. I'm going to just click off of that. Just wanted to give you a heads up that that is an option. While we're out here in responses, I'm going to give you an extra tip, something that is semi-new to the new Forms interface. You can copy charts from your results page. So if you wanted to copy this and then maybe paste it into a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet or a Google slideshow, anything like that, you can simply copy. It'll copy that image to a clipboard, and then you can open up the file and paste it right in to the document or slideshow or whatever you need. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be a stagnant image. So if additional responses come in that change that chart, it will not update for you. So you'll have to come back and copy up updated charts and graphs if you do need to keep it relevant. But that is a nice feature. In the old interface, you could link and could copy charts, and that option went away for a while. So I'm happy to see that it's back. All right, so let me close out of these tabs and we will keep going. Embedding a form. This is extremely helpful. I really like having the ability to take HTML code of your form and being able to embed that in other websites. So if you have an event coming up and you have a website about that event and you want people to register or to sign up right from the event page, you can grab your Google Form HTML, if that's what you're using for registration, and you can paste that right into your HTML code for whatever website platform that you're using to host your site. So I have one example here that I did want to show you. So I'm actually testing in a Google site, and it's a little bit different in Google Sites because it's all the same family of tools. And so you don't necessarily need that HTML code. You can actually just do a search and plop your form right in there just by searching in your My Drive. And once the user sees that, they can scroll down, they can even pop it out into another tab or another window, and they can fill it out right there on your website. And then they can continue on to the next page. It doesn't have to be one page, it can be several. So it's really user-friendly and convenient to have a form living right there on your website, so you don't have to link them to another location. So that's what it will look like to the end user. If we go back to our form here, I'll show you where you can locate that HTML code. And I also just wanted to note here that you cannot embed a form if you have the file upload question type incorporated. So that's just an error that you're going to receive. It will not let you embed if you have the file upload active. So let's jump back out here to our example form. And under the Send button, And you should be familiar with this. This is where you can email your form to an individual or a group. You can also grab that URL to go directly to your form. And then also you have the third option, which is finding that HTML code. And you can adjust the width and the height. And then based on what you have entered here, you can grab the HTML code and you can go paste it right into WordPress or whatever web hosting platform you're using. So it's a very simple way to do that. And then again, the nice thing is if you update your form or if you change your form at all, it will automatically update on that website for you. So you don't have to come back out here, get a new HTML code, embed it again. It will automatically feed wherever the code is living. All right, so let me go back to our slides here. Notification rules. So as you are receiving responses, you have the ability to control, number one, if you get notified at all, and number two, how frequently you're going to be notified of changes or new responses. So there's two different ways that you can configure this. The first is from your form editor. Under the Response tab, you have the ability to get emails for new responses. You'll see that highlighted as your first option in the More menu, and I'll show you where that lives again in just a minute. And then you can also go into your response spreadsheet. And under the Tools menu, you have additional notification rules. So you can determine how often you want to receive an email notification. So when any changes are made to the data or as users submit their form response. And then you can determine if you just want everything to be summarized in one daily update, or if you want an email as those changes are made or as those forms are submitted. So you can control the frequency of those notifications. So let's jump back out to our example. So again, from your Responses tab, from the More menu, you can check or uncheck whether or not you get those email notifications. But if you do want an email, go ahead and make sure that's selected. And then to narrow down even more, you can click on the spreadsheet, come out to the Tools menu, and then click on Notification Rules. And here's where that more detailed window appears. And this is where you can determine if you want an email every time a user submits a form, and if you want an email right away or just to be summarized into one daily email. And then you click on Save. And you can continue to add additional rules if you need to. And you can delete them too. If you change your mind and say, oh, we'll just leave it at the default, you can delete that. All right, so those are your notification rules, making sure you're being updated as needed. All right, so we're going to end on add-ons, and there's been some interesting conversations going on about add-ons lately. OIT is actually taking a closer look and having additional discussions on how we're going to be handling add-ons moving forward. And so I don't have a lot of information to share with you right now, but I do want to let you know several things about add-ons that you might want to be aware of if you do want to take your forms to the next level. So add-ons basically, like I said, can kind of bump up your functionality and take your forms to another level that allow you to have additional features enabled that you don't get with just the basic default Google Forms. Now, when you are searching for add-ons, it's really important to evaluate what the reviews are and also to take a closer look at the star ratings. We typically say 3 stars and above is what we would recommend before even considering an add-on. And then also the reviews are really going to be telling. If people are saying that it's not working as expected or it's messing with their performance, you might want to stay away from it. And it's especially important to read and understand what type of data and access you are agreeing to and what you're allowing these third parties to be able to access within your own account. There can be some security risks when you're handing over those permissions to someone outside of our domain. So that's why we just want to make sure you're aware of those privacy terms and the agreement that you are allowing and checking yes to when you are adding these additional features to your account. Also, because add-ons are hosted and supported by third parties, and we don't have really any control over what these add-ons do, our help desk is only able to provide limited assistance for troubleshooting. So if you do run into an issue with an add-on, or if it's not working the way you had hoped it would, or if it's making your performance slow down or interfering with some of your business processes or the tools that you have enabled, our help desk can probably tell you it's the add-on, and that's about as far as they can go. So keep that in mind too as far as support. I do want to walk you through how to locate and how to enable add-ons. So if you are able to find something that you're comfortable with, and that is not a security risk for your data and for campus, you can easily research and find available add-ons by going out to your form, clicking on the More menu, and then choosing the Add-ons option. So there's a few that I know are popular on campus. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but Form Limiter. So if you search for an add-on, you can click on the title, and that will open up more information about what that add-on can do. So you'll see typically some screenshots that you can browse through. Get back up there. So to see what it does and what functionality it will provide. And then you can scroll down, read kind of a summary of the tool, and then read what the reviews are. So you'll see some people are giving it 5 stars, some people 1 star. So it's just helpful to go through and see why people like it and why people don't, and determine whether or not you want to try it out. The overall star rating is typically up at the top, and it will let you know if it's free. And we unfortunately aren't able to provide paid for add-ons, so you will receive an error if you try to install something that does require payment. But when you do click that button, which basically is allowing you to go ahead and install it, you will need to choose your account, and it will summarize the access requirements or the privacy restrictions that you're going to be agreeing to. Now, this is just a high-level overview, really, of all the information that it will need to access. So we highly recommend that you continue to dig a little bit deeper. And if you look below, normally it will give you a more detailed privacy policy statement. So you can click on that and then research more regarding the terms of using that particular add-on. So we can't recommend anything right now from an OIT perspective, but we just highly suggest that you do your homework. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to help you investigate more. But if everything is okay and it's not requiring too much security or providing that much of a risk, you can go ahead and click on Allow. And then once you have an add-on installed successfully, it'll pop up in your top right-hand menu. You can say, yep, I got it. I see it's up there. It looks like a little puzzle piece. And you can click on the add-on icon. It will provide you with a list of any add-ons that you have installed. You can click to activate and then continue to walk through to build that add-on. And then if you change your mind and you want to remove an add-on, so if something isn't working correctly, or if you no longer need to use that functionality, you can come back out to your 3-dot menu, select add-ons. I'll do a search for Form Limiter. And now you can select the Manage option and then Remove. And once you remove all of your add-ons, I'll do a quick refresh. It will remove the puzzle piece icon from the top of your view. There's another example of a choice eliminator. Feel free to take a look at these and test them out and see if there's something that you might be able to use. And again, feel free to reach out to the help desk if you have any questions or concerns.
Katie, there's one question about add-ons that you may be able to answer based on your conversations in the Google service team and with the Google admins.
Sure.
Do you know if add-ons need to be vetted through the ClickWrap agreements?
So that's a great question, and that's actually something that we're currently discussing. If it's going to be available domain-wide, then absolutely it needs to be reviewed, and our software team needs to investigate that further. At this point, it's not necessarily required for an individual use, but we highly, highly recommend it. So if you're going to be installing any kind of third party, we prefer just to take a closer look at those privacy terms to make sure it's not going to be a security risk. And sometimes that requires a trained eye to kind of know what fine print to look for. So if you want to submit that to the help desk, I believe there's actually a new option under the software ClickWrap request. I can't remember what that website is, but there's a website out there where you can complete a form and ask the software team to review it for you. So if you want to kind of send it through that review process just to make sure you're in the clear, I would highly recommend to do that. You might hear down the road that review process is going to change for individuals and possibly for the domain. So that's really what we're discussing in depth right now when it comes to these add-ons. But that's a really good question. And if I can find the website with that review request form, I'll add it to the Q&A document after the session.
Great,
thank you. Sure. All right, so we're coming to the end of the session today. We do have additional resources. A lot of these link to more in-depth, kind of short and quick tutorials regarding several of the topics we discussed today. So if you have more time later on this week, you can click and kind of watch the videos and tutorials about some of those items. All right, I'm going to refer back to the Q&A document. Are there any other questions at this point?
We've had a few others, but they have all been answered in the document. So this is kind of last call, but I think we're good.
Perfect. Very good. All right. Well, if anything else comes to mind after the session, feel free to reach out to the training team. We'll be glad to work with you one-on-one. I probably won't spend too much time looking back at the Q&A document. It looks like Louise was able to add that link. Thank you so much to the review form. So I would definitely recommend just emailing us directly. And if it's something that I think might benefit all of the participants today, I'll be glad to send out another email with additional information. As far as upcoming workshops, we do have a busy summer, and we hope that you'll be able to join us at future events. You'll see the July calendar on the screen. Hangouts Meet, we're really excited about. That's our new web conferencing tool. So if you haven't tried out Meet yet, or if you just want to understand it a little bit more, hopefully you can sign up for that event in early July. And of course, to register for those events, you can visit go.ncsu.edu/learnit. That will land you directly on all of the technology events that we are hosting. So it'll drop you right into the OIT category. We also have several ways to stay connected. We have Twitter and Google+, social media, so definitely follow us there if you're not already. And I highly recommend OIT News. If you haven't subscribed to that yet, definitely look into it. It's a monthly e-newsletter that will provide you with various technology updates, but we also typically focus on Google. So you'll see information about anything new that's rolling out related to our Google platform, and also any upcoming training opportunities. Another thing a lot of people are not familiar with is that we do offer custom classes. So if you've heard something today that you think would benefit your colleagues, or if you hear something in one of our workshops, or just think that, you know what, we could dig into some of these features a little bit more based on the way we operate in our office, we will be more than happy to come to you. We just require at least 5 participants. So feel free to click on that custom classes link or email ClassReg directly, and we can work with you to get something scheduled. And again, you have the evaluation link on the document that we ask you to complete after this event. And of course, reach out to us at any time with any questions that you have. We'll be glad to do what we can to help you. And if we don't know the answer, we will find someone who does. So classreg@ncsu.edu. Other than that, this concludes our Lunch and Learn, our Advanced Forms YouTube Live event today. Thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us. I hope you were able to benefit from some of the tools and features that we shared with you this afternoon. And we would love to hear how you're using forms. So if you know of a tip that we didn't share today, definitely reach out and let us know. We are always curious to hear how users are implementing Google tools. So share your successes with us, and we'll definitely try to include those in some of the other conversations that we have and some of the other future training opportunities that we offer to campus. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a great afternoon and enjoy the summer.